Some of you are about to be real mad at me. Okay, here we go. Hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Kylie, and today I am gonna be sharing with you some very highly rated horror movies that I hate. Ooh. Now I'm making this video because I've already made 2 videos about low-rated horror that I love, so I thought it would be interesting to do a high-rated horror movies that I hate. This honestly might just turn out to be like an unpopular horror opinions video. I mean, we'll find out. Oh, also, I hit 400 subscribers on my birthday too last week. It was last week, but like, wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Disclaimer. Just because these are movies that I don't like or they're movies that I won't rewatch, it doesn't mean that they're bad movies. Some of them it does. Some of these I think are bad movies. Some of you guys might get real mad at me, but it is what it is. I'd also like to remind you that having different opinions is okay. I know that a lot of horror fans hold very strongly to their beliefs and they get very mad when other people have different opinions than them. But need I remind you that if people didn't have different opinions on horror movies, we wouldn't have such a diverse horror industry. So, it's okay and it's good for people to have different opinions. I would love to hear yours. If you disagree with me or agree with me, whatever, definitely comment down below and let me know why, but don't be rude. Okay, disclaimer over, let's get started. So I'm gonna work my way from the lowest rated movie on this list to the highest rated movie. Okay, so starting out with this list of high rated horror movies that I hate. The first one is I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. This is a Netflix horror movie. It came out in 2016 and it's rated at a 68%. So it's not high rated, but it's much higher than I think it should be rated. Hired to care for a reclusive elderly author, a live-in nurse comes to believe her house is haunted. I don't know if that many people have talked about this movie or have even heard of it, but it sucks. I don't use that word liberally. I don't like to say that movies suck because normally I can find some sort of redeeming quality in them. This one, I could not. It's an hour and 27 minutes long and it felt like it was 3 hours of my life. Most of the dialogue in this movie was narration, and I think that they really thought that they were doing something special with it. A lot of it seems to be trying to be very poetic, and she just goes on and on about like death and this woman that lived there or whatever. It sounds like they think they're doing something really profound, when in reality they're saying a whole lot of nothing. I didn't gain a single thing while watching this movie. If someone else did, that's great. But when I was listening to that dialogue, I was just like, what are they talking about? An example of a movie that uses poetic dialogue in the right way, and I feel like they're actually saying something, is The Witch. The movie came out in 2016 as well, I believe, or 2015. But that's a movie where they thought they were doing something and they actually were indeed doing something. So this movie, absolutely not. I'm also pretty sure that this movie had a very low budget and they don't really try to hide that. This movie doesn't look very good and it's just, you can tell it's a very low budget movie. Okay, moving right along. The next movie on this list is Starry Eyes. This movie came out in 2014 and it's rated at a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. A hopeful young starlet uncovers the ominous origins of the Hollywood elite and enters into a deadly agreement in exchange for fame and fortune. Now this is not a bad movie. I actually feel like it's really nicely paced. There is a lot of good horror elements in it. It's not bad. But there are 2 big reasons why I will never watch this movie again. Number 1 is they explore the topic of young women trying to rise to fame in Hollywood and what they have to do to make their name known and such. It's very dark. It's very dark. I'm not gonna give any spoilers for any of these movies in this video, but wow. As a young woman who is currently in film school, I'll hopefully be entering the film industry in some way or another when I graduate, or maybe in a couple of years. And women have kind of a hard time in the industry. I know that they would like you to believe that women's stories are being told more frequently now, that we're getting better opportunities and stuff. Please. Please, of the 100 top grossing films in 2019, 100 top grossing films, only 12 were directed by women. So spare me anything about the Me Too movement and the fact that women have equal opportunities now, because we simply don't. Because if we did, that number would be 50-50. Ooh. And get this, in 2018, of the top 100 grossing films, only four were directed by women. Less than 2 years ago. So please. So this movie explored that topic a little bit, more so with acting, not so much with directing or production or whatever, because it's about a young actress trying to make it. So I don't know, maybe I should appreciate the movie for that, because it's kind of calling out the film industry a little bit for being really predatory and only letting women become famous if they do certain things rather than just being talented. But another reason why I will never watch this movie again is because of the body horror. Wow. Different strokes for different folks, absolutely. I just don't handle body horror well, especially when it has to do with the mouth. So, not for me, just not for me. Let's move right along. Some of you are about to be real mad at me. Okay, here we go. The next movie on this list is The Exorcist. Oop. Came out in 1973 and it's rated at an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not really gonna get into the synopsis of this movie. It's very famous and I believe it set the precedent for all other possession movies after that. So you know The Exorcist. Oh, okay. Hear me out, please, hear me out. It's terribly paced. The prologue scene in that other country, whatever they were doing, cut it. The fact that there are so many scenes of random people and priests and stuff coming into the room to see her, cut one of them, cut two of them. This movie had no business being 2 hours and 12 minutes long. Ooh. Also, I definitely understand why this movie was so controversial when it got released, because of the character of Cassie and what she went through. Why on earth, who on earth decided it would be a good idea for a 12-year-old girl to act as though she was stabbing herself in her crotchamus with a cross? Who greenlit that idea? Not even to mention all the profanity she spews out, because whatever, cuss words, whatever, but she's talking about like, but the other stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Why'd they do Linda Blair so dirty? I mean, people were scared of her after she was in that movie. She was like ostracized, and if people saw her like around LA or whatever, they would be scared of her. Of a 12-year-old girl. Like, could you imagine what she went through? If you have Shudder, you need to watch History of Horror. It's the Eli Roth documentary series about the history of horror. Linda Blair is on the Possessions episode and she talks about what happened to her and what she went through because she played that role. It's very sad, and boo on the filmmakers for that. Also, another small disclaimer for this video, I believe that just because a movie set the precedent or kind of defined a genre, it doesn't mean that it's still a good movie. Yes, we absolutely should still recognize them for what they did for certain genres, but it doesn't mean they're good movies. Okay, I know people are gonna be mad at me for that one, but let's just move along. The fourth movie on this list is 28 Days Later. It came out in 2002 and it's rated at an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. A group of misguided animal rights activists free a caged chimp infected with the rage virus from a medical research lab. While London biker courier Jim wakes up from a coma a month after he finds his city all but deserted. On the run from the zombie-like victims of the rage, Jim stumbles upon a group of survivors, including Selena and cab driver Frank, and joins them on a perilous journey to what he hopes will be safety. The premise of this movie is fine. I feel like if it was done today, it would be done much better. I have to commend the filmmakers for working with a very small budget to make what became a very successful film, but this movie looks like poo. It doesn't look good. Because it came out in 2002, I can forgive it for that, I guess, because they didn't have iPhones and whatever and couldn't just shoot high quality stuff without a high budget. But because it was such a good concept and like kind of well written. I feel like they should have just waited until they could make some more contacts and find a studio that would have funded them better. The pacing for this movie is also kind of weird, not my favorite, and there were some very aggressively written male characters in this movie, and not that I think that it's not accurate, but that triggered some of my deepest rooted fears. So this one is a little bit more personal of a reason why I don't like it, but nonetheless, I don't like it, and it's rated super high, which I don't understand. So moving right along. This one I feel like is not widely known at all, but it's on Shudder and it's called Replace. This movie came out in 2017 and it's rated an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. When a young woman who has a disease that makes her skin crumble away discovers she can replace the skin with someone else's, she seeks out victims to preserve her beauty. Now, this movie had a very interesting plot, and then I was just let down. The thing is, this movie had such an interesting subplot. I won't give anything away, but the subplot was infinitely more interesting than the main plot, and yet they didn't run with that. I also did not feel any type of sense of closure from this movie, especially with the subplot. It's so interesting, and you start to get somewhere with this subplot, and then it's totally cut off. There's no closure. They never bring it up again, and it's just simply a missed opportunity, in my opinion. Also, this is a very personal preference, but I kind of found it worth mentioning. I really didn't like the production design of this movie. I thought that the aesthetic was very weird, and I suppose it had an artistic quality to it that definitely sets it apart from a lot of mainstream horror, but it just wasn't for me, not appealing to my eyes. Didn't enjoy it. Overall, just felt very uncomfortable during this movie, but some other people might like it. I mean, obviously some people did like it. It's rated at an 88%, which is very high for a horror movie. Okay, now we are finally going to be getting into some movies that are rated higher than 90%. So the first one that I want to talk about is The Cabin in the Woods that came out in 2012 that's rated at a 92%. When 5 college friends arrive at a remote forest cabin for a little vacation, little do they expect the horrors that await them. One by one, the youths fall victim to the backwoods zombies, but there is another factor at play. 2 scientists are manipulating the ghoulish goings-on, but even as the body count rises, there is yet more at work than meets the eye. Now, listen, I don't think this is a bad movie. I actually really enjoyed it. It has a lot of very meta commentary in the film, and it's a lot like Scream, where it's basically, the dialogue is basically exposing itself for the tropes that it brings up and stuff. It's hard to explain, but it's just very meta. And I do like that. Scream is my favorite slasher of all time, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So that wasn't the problem. The problem was, oh, hi. The issue that I have with Cabin in the Woods is the ending. I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen it. But the ending, I just feel like they didn't know where to go from where they had just been. They didn't know how to end it. So they did what they did. If you know, you know. Now, I love all the creatures. I love the meta commentary. I don't dislike this movie. I just don't understand why it's rated at 92%. There are some really good high-profile actors in it, but the rest of the acting is very mediocre. The ending is dumb. It's not good. A 92%. It doesn't make sense to me. Because you mean to tell me that Scream, the OG meta-commentary horror movie, is rated a 79%, but Cabin in the Woods is rated a 92%? Please. Please. Okay, the next movie on this list is a foreign film. It's a Korean film called The Host. It came out in 2007 and it's rated a 93%. Careless American military personnel dump chemicals into South Korea's Han River. Several years later, a creature emerges from the tainted waters and sinks its ravenous jaws into local residents. When the creature abducts their daughter, a vendor and his family decide that they are the only ones who can save her. Listen, Bong Joon-ho directed this and he's brilliant, but this movie was not it. This movie was just trying to be too many things at once. It was trying to be a creature feature horror movie. It was trying to be a pandemic movie. It was trying to be a comedy. It was trying to be a drama, all at the same time. And rather than being really good at any one of those things, it was very mediocre at all of those things. Some of the comedic relief was okay, but it was just very mediocre, and I'm very confused how this got rated a 93%. I was watching this movie with my dad, and we actually turned it off after like an hour and 15 minutes, and I feel bad judging a movie when I haven't seen it in its entirety, but to be honest, the first hour and 15 minutes felt like 3 hours of my life, and it just was not good. It wasn't good enough to keep going. If you're not gonna have a movie that can grip me and keep me interested for only an hour and 15 minutes, how do you expect me to want to watch the rest of it? Like, I was interested in probably about the first 20 minutes and the stuff with the creature and whatever, and it was making good social commentary about Americans being careless and like disrupting and polluting other countries without caring at all. But then there were just one too many cheesy moments in the movie, and the plot was not working for me. It was going off in so many different directions and trying to be so many different things. I just didn't like it. Okay, we still have 4 more movies to go. Hopefully you're not too angry with me yet, but this next one, the next movie on this list is The Evil Dead from 1981, and it's rated at a 95%. Ash and his girlfriend and 3 pals hike into the woods to a cabin for a fun night away. There they find an old book, the Necronomicon, whose text reawakens the dead when it's read aloud. The friends inadvertently release a flood of evil and must fight for their lives or become one of the evil dead. I know some people are real mad at me for that, but I didn't find this movie to be scary or funny because I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be a dark comedy. Any of the moments that were trying to be comical when they would get possessed and stuff, and like his girlfriend when she would just be laughing endlessly, keyword endlessly, that scene went on for way too long. I don't understand the purpose of a lot of the choices that Sam Raimi made. I don't get it. Now this is one of those movies like The Exorcist that really set the precedent for the genre, I believe. Because yes, Friday the 13th came out the year before, and that sort of set the precedent for like teenage camping type of movies. This one I feel like was the first one that was centered on a cabin in the woods. So it was one of the first of its kind, but let's just be real, so many way better like camping movies and stuff have come out since then. I'm sorry. This movie is just not for me. I don't think it was acted well at all. I don't think the special effects were good. I know it was 1981, don't come for me, but there were other movies in the 80s that had amazing practical effects, so don't even start with me. I'm not gonna rewatch this movie, and I'm probably never gonna finish the trilogy simply because I was just kind of bored and I was really annoyed a lot of the time. But remember, different strokes for different folks. Okay, moving right along. All right, now we're in our top 3. So the next movie on this list is Rosemary's Baby from 1968, rated at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sorry. Now, this is not a bad movie. I know that I titled this video Movies That I Hate. I don't hate this movie, but I'm also probably not gonna watch it again. Let me just tell you what I like about this movie. Let me tell you the good things about this movie. One of the very first of its kind, right, with the whole cult and the devil thing, Mia Farrow. Her performance was immaculate. She was amazing. We have to stan. I love Mia Farrow. But Roman Polanski deserves nothing. He deserves nothing in this world. He doesn't deserve life. And it's just too hard for me to separate the movie from him. He's so well known for this movie. This movie is so well known for him. And he's a pedophile who never paid for his crimes. He fled to Europe and continues to have a career in film. How does that work? Tell me, how does that work? Aside from that, I felt like this movie was too long. It's almost 2.5 hours long, and I do appreciate a good slow burn sometimes. This was way too slow, way too long. Plus, this woman, she wanted to get pregnant, but then she was basically involuntarily impregnated by this cult, right? So further promoting the objectivity of women in a way, and just promoting the idea that, you know, women, we really don't have much control over our lives or our bodies. Hate that. Thematically, hate it. Don't like that. Also, the amount of gaslighting in this movie, oh my god. Maybe it was making social commentary on it, but then again, the director is a pedophile, so moving on before I get too angry, the next movie on this list is The Babadook. This came out in 2014 and it's rated at 98%. I'm not gonna focus on this one for too long because the last time I saw it was in like 2015, right after it first came out, and I didn't finish it. I remember almost nothing from this movie except for the scene where the mom is masturbating, and for what? What did that contribute to the plot? It was so forgettable. It was so boring. I will rewatch it because I'm very curious why it's rated so high. I'm very curious why so many people loved that movie. I made it almost to the end. I think I turned it off when there were only like 20 minutes left because it had been like an hour and a half of boring. And that's all I remember, but I was only 16 years old when I was watching it, so I definitely need to rewatch it. I just threw it on this list, but I'm gonna move on. The very last movie on this list. Wow. Cheers to you if you made it this long and I haven't upset you yet. But the last movie on this list is Let the Right One In from 2008, and it's rated also at a 98%. Now this is a Swedish horror movie actually, and you can watch it right now, it's on Hulu. When Oscar, a sensitive bullied 12-year-old boy living with his mother in suburban Sweden, meets his new neighbor, the mysterious and moody Eli, they strike up a friendship. Initially reserved with each other, Oscar and Eli form a close bond, but it soon becomes apparent that she is no ordinary young girl. Eventually, Eli shares her dark, macabre secret with Oscar, revealing her connection to a string of bloody local murders. It's not good. It's supposed to be a romantic horror movie, but it's two 12-year-olds. This movie, it's very inappropriate. It is. They're two 12-year-olds. There's a scene where she gets naked and climbs into bed with him. They're 12. They're 12. There's another scene where she's changing in a different room and he like peeks his head in to watch, I guess, and you see her little crotch. Her little 12-year-old crotch. Huh? These things are different when it's adults doing them, but when you have one 12-year-old that's apparently a hundreds-of-year-old vampire and then an actual 12-year-old, disgusting. It's also very slow. Like I said, I don't mind a slow burn. This movie, it is so slow. It's like 2 hours long and it drags. Also, where is the plot? This whole movie is just a bunch of random things happening. This 12-year-old kid getting bullied and then them like falling in love. Where's the plot? I watched this movie with my dad and he hated it too. He couldn't believe that we sat through the whole thing. I couldn't believe it either, but I was waiting till the end because I'm trying now, especially now, to always watch movies through till the end because I have to give them a chance. I can't say that there is any movie that I love where I'm like, well, the first hour and a half or the first hour was kind of bad, but then the ending totally makes up for the whole movie and I love it. You know, that just doesn't happen. But I watched the whole movie. I've heard people rave about this movie. It's rated at a 98%. Okay, I think that I'm gonna wrap it up here. Please comment down below your own high-rated horror movies that you hate, or just respond to any of my opinions with some of yours. I'd love to read them. Thank you for 400 subscribers. I appreciate it so much. Welcome if you're new, and thank you for supporting me. If you're new and you like this video, I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:00 p.m. every single week. That's a lot of content, baby. I also post once a week on my vlog channel, so even more content. So subscribe over there if you're interested in my personal life or my travels. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram and my Twitter are both Kai Johns, so have fun, go crazy, follow me over there and say what's up if you want to. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that I catch you in the next one. Bye!